listening to Anthony on the Virus, Sirius XM.
Michio Kaku.
Yes, right
Doctor.
here.
Yes, sir. Now, we were watching this this probe, and it seems to be a success.
Well, the actual shot was kind of disappointing. We were all expecting a Hollywood-style money shot like Deep Impact or Armageddon.
Yes.
But in the next few hours, the spectrographic analysis will come in, and if they find evidence of water and ice, that's a game changer. That could change the entire space program if they find large quantities of ice on the South Pole.
This doesn't mean that we'd have to take a lot of resources to the moon with us. Water can be used to make oxygen, to supply, obviously, water to
rocket fuel,
people.
Too. Rocket fuel.
And rocket fuel, the hydrogen from the water, can be used as rocket fuel.
A pound of anything on the Earth would cost $50,000 to put it on the moon.
And imagine if it's a pound of coke.
5 times the cost of gold. Because, gold is only $10,000 a pound, roughly, and it costs $50,000 to put a pound.
But you already know there's no ice and water on the moon, right? You already know that.
Well, I think it's
Let's be honest, sir. You know that there's no ice and no water on the moon. You know that.
It's a long shot. A comet from billions of years ago may have slammed into the South Pole where it's very cold and it's permanently covered by shadows of craters. So there's a small chance that you could have large deposits of ice. But it's a long shot.
And you don't believe that we even landed on the moon, right, sir?
No, I think we've been on the moon. Now, we physicists shine lasers off the moon. There's a mirror left by the Apollo astronauts. We bounce lasers off that mirror, and then we can calculate the distance from the Earth to the moon within a few inches.
Just for fun.
So we use the moon program to calculate the distance from the Earth to the moon by lasers.
Now, can I ask you this? Are there any universally known like facts about the universe or about science that you completely dislike? Do you look at the theory of relativity and go, that idiot son of a bitch, Einstein was a dumbass? Like, are there any theories like by Hawking or anything like that you go, this is ridiculous, I don't believe it, and it's dumb?
Well, the thing that really kind of upsets me when I read physics books is when they talk about a singularity where space and time break down, gravity is infinite and stuff. There's no such thing as singularities, There's no such thing as infinite gravity. It means that we don't know what's happening there. That's all. It's an excuse for our ignorance.
Now, let me ask you this, sir. This is something I learned about space, and this is what I believe because it makes sense to me, is that space is not really empty. It's more or less matter. And like, say the sun is sitting in the middle of this matter, almost like if it's a stretched out sheet.
Yes.
And the sun is in the middle, and if you put balls and coins or whatever, it's just going to roll towards the sun. And that's what our planets are doing, are basically rolling towards the sun. But the thing that's keeping them from rolling into the sun is the fact that they have their own weight that's pushing down on this dark matter.
Oh, yeah, we actually measure that. When we have dying stars, pulsars rotating into each other, space becomes like molasses.
And have you ever made up a theory that's pretty well known?
My theory is called string field theory. I work in something called string theory, and we want to summarize it into an equation 1 inch long. That's my equation. And we hope to test string theory with a $10 billion machine outside Geneva, Switzerland. It's not going to blow up the Earth, but it could prove that we all are made out of vibrating strings, and that's what I do for a living. I'm the co-founder of string field theory.
String field theory.
And what is the significance to laymen's, like people who are just living life? If I find out that I'm just a big black string.
Well, it means that we can read the mind of God. Einstein said,
see, scientists, this is your problem, sir. Stop messing with God. Scientists
are the only scientists who can say the word God and not blush.
You just, why don't you leave? Here's what you can't explain. This is what you're never able to do. You're able to tell me how your heart beat. No, you're able to tell, like, your heart beats, right? Mm-hmm. You're able to say your heart beats. We live because our heart beats. You give the cause, but you don't know why or how your heart beats. Like, it's just beating.
It beats by electricity. The electric impulse that stimulates the heart makes it beat. We can make frog hearts beat by shooting electricity through frog hearts.
Y'all really
It's
told
electricity.
God to kiss your ass.
Yeah.
Now, do
pretty
you
much.
believe in God, sir?
Well, I was quoting from Einstein. Einstein believed in a God of Spinoza, the God of harmony, beauty, elegance, simplicity, that the universe was so gorgeous.
He was a
it could not have
Jedi.
been an accident. That's the God
Surroundings.
of Einstein.
Now, let me tell last question. Well, maybe not the last one. What is the most unexplainable thing? Like, to me, the idea of the beginning. There has to be a place where you have to kind of chalk it up to God, meaning that even physicists go, man, my mind is not able to conceptualize that this is not God. Like, is there anything that you go, man, this part is God?
Well, we believe in what is called the multiverse, that our universe is a soap bubble of some sort that's expanding,
Multiverse.
but there are other soap bubbles out there. And we live in a bubble bath of universes, where big bangs happen when bubbles collide, when bubbles fission in half. And we're going to prove it in the coming years with a new satellite that NASA is launching in about 5 to 8 years. And so we're going to prove that there was, in fact, something before the Big Bang, something before Genesis, before chapter 1, verse 1 of Genesis. And it was the multiverse, a multiverse of universes.
That is interesting.
Very interesting, Dr. Kaku.
But here's the God part is that the Big Bang, there was a something before the Big Bang.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
That's right. There were probably Big Bangs happening all the time, even as we speak.
But there was a beginning, Doctor, and that's God.
See, he's saying the ultimate beginning before the thing before the Big Bang. Before that, there had to be a greater power that got it all rolling.
Well, we think the string theory is the ultimate theory, the final theory. The
I
theory
like
that
it.
eluded Einstein.
My string theory is, you see a string, your sheets are getting dirty. But that's just me, Dr. Kaku. I know you have to go. You only had 10 minutes.
Anyway, read my book. It's called Physics of the Impossible.
Speaking of Physics of the Impossible, Dr. Kaku, when's that show going to air on Discovery or History?
December on the Science Channel. 12 episodes I'm hosting on teleportation, starships, warp drive, parallel universes, ray guns, Death Stars, planet busters, everything you've ever wanted to know about Star Trek.
Quick question, actually, for Dr. Kaku. Do you feel that if this the moon mission is successful, do you think that'll fuel any kind of speculation that maybe a probe to Europa might be sent out anytime within our lifetime?
Well, I think it would give added impetus to a probe to Europa, a moon of Jupiter, which is covered with ice, but may have an ocean underneath the ice. And that ocean could be actually room temperature. And there could be, who knows, sea monsters maybe swimming underneath the ice cover of Europa.
Wow.
That's a game changer, too, because we once thought you had to be close to the sun. Because Europa is ice covered and far away from the sun.
They just want to keep playing around.
Because it does seem like the technology does, in fact, exist, for some kind of ice melting probe. I know that the surface ice on Europa is probably miles thick, but it does seem like we're getting close, if not already have the technology to burrow through it and kind of get to the liquid ocean under there.
That's right. NASA has designs for a submarine to float into the ocean of Europa.
Cool.
They're very expensive probes. Again, they cost maybe $50,000 to $100,000 a pound to put them out there to Jupiter. But hey, that's nothing compared to the trillions being dumped into the economy right now.
Do you believe there's other people out there?
Yeah, I think maybe not in our solar system, but I think in outer space, there probably are people looking back at us, wondering whether or not there's any life on the Earth.
We're alone.
Probably no intelligent life on the Earth anyway.
Yeah.
And you think they're just the same thing as us, same societies and the whole thing, same structure, that they're just, boom?
Well, we physicists believe that there are type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations out in space. Type 1 would be planetary. Type 2 is stellar, like Star Trek. Type 3 would be Star Wars and galactic civilizations. On that scale, we're type 0. We're not even a planetary civilization yet. So in outer space, there could be type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations, perhaps 100,000 to 1 million years more advanced than us, in fact.
Yeah, until they get rid of things like Maury. And,
The Anthony Podcast.
Do you ever swear? Like, if you discover something like amazing, like, you guys go, holy fuck balls, E equals MC square up in this bitch.
Yeah, that's what we do. We jump up and down and swear. I mean, when I discovered string field theory, I was just jumping up and down until like 5 o'clock in the morning, checking and rechecking all the equations to make sure that everything worked out right. And it worked. And it's one of the foundations of string theory now.
He called Stephen Hawking and said, take that, motherfucker. Shove that in your piano, nigga. Do you laugh at things like Nostradamus and the end of the world theories, the 2012? Do you laugh at things like that?
Well, when I was a kid, I used to read everything about the paranormal, you know, Bigfoot and witches and demons and Nostradamus. And then I got disillusioned because then I began to realize that Nostradamus in the original is all metaphorical poetry. You know, a dictator rises in the east, a nation rises in the west. What the hell does that mean?
Nonsense, right? 2012, this 2012 thing means nothing.
I think so. If you look at the Mayan calendar, it's in cycles. One cycle ends in 2012, but another cycle begins. But I guess someone thought they could make a lot of money saying that the cycle ends in 2012. But it's a new cycle begins.
Yeah, and not bring up the new beginning one. Yeah.
And do you notice every time there's a black president in a movie, it's the end of the world? Danny Glover is the president in this movie 2012. Can you believe that? Can you effing believe that, Doctor? Oh, man. That's amazing. I love this. I love outer space, man. Hey, do you have a girlfriend, dude?
I have a wife.
You have a wife?
He's a married man.
Oh my! That's so curious to see. Like, how do you bore her, or is she also a physicist too? And I don't mean that you're boring, but I mean, you know, your life is it's very difficult to understand this stuff. So, is she into the thing too? Into physics?
Well, you know, art and science are extremely close together. Mathematics is almost like poetry. And if you think about it, physicists are like artists, except instead of playing with paint, we play with equations. So it's very creative, it's very imaginative, and
so you're saying you're a freak? Don't let the numbers fool you.
Yeah. he's
meaning you're a lot more exciting than what people would imagine.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff. You know, we're talking about the meaning of the universe. We're talking about the ultimate constituents of matter. We're talking about cracking the big one, the big equation that makes the whole universe go.
You're listening to Anthony.
I think in 100 years' time, there's going to be two trends in the world. One trend is toward the creation of a planetary civilization. That's called Type 1. But on the other hand, we have the forces of chaos, global warming, nuclear proliferation. And it's not clear which of the two forces will dominate. But, yeah, there are two contending trends in the world right now. And by 2100, I think it'll be settled as to whether or not we're going to have an age of Aquarius, a Type 1 civilization, or whether we wind up in chaos.
I seem to think humans are very adaptable. I think if we run out of a resource, it forces us to use our noggins, and the next generation does come up with a solution that the last generation created a problem for. It's been that way since we've really crawled out of the woods, and I don't think we can truly destroy ourselves or destroy this planet. I think everything adapts, and I truly believe that future generations have and will continue to fix the problems of the past generation.
Well,
I like that.
I think the Earth will survive. I'm not sure humans will survive, but the Earth will certainly survive.
Luckily, none of us are vampires. We're going to be dead anyway. Do you think there's an afterlife, sir?
Well, I tend to think that there's no measurable evidence of a soul or an afterlife. You know, we scientists have looked for it. We tried to weigh the soul of the body before and after death. We see no difference in the weight. We see no reproducible evidence. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means it's not reproducible, not testable, not measurable, not falsifiable.
And he's a scientist, so he looks for that kind of proof thing. Spiritual thinking is something completely different.
Do you have any unconventional, non-physicist belief? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in anything that do scary movies scare? Do you believe in anything that's not scientific that you go, man, the rest of my colleagues would think I'm a fool? Are you superstitious at all?
First of all, I love to see the movies. I have a great time watching magic shows and ghost shows. But my attitude is that I think we can reduce magic to physics. As
I love it.
We need people like that,
I
though.
love this guy.
I think I'm quite reasonable, but I don't put hats on my bed. You know what I mean? I think I'm like reasonably not superstitious.
I knock wood. You know, I go,
Yeah,
knock wood if someone says something.
Hold on, Ant. I'm going to go to the phones.
No. How about you hold down? You piece of shit. Sorry. Hi. I'm not just a caller, but introduced as Stephen Hawking. This is important context for the hilarity which ensues. And thanks for listening to No&A.
Okay, well, I got to get off the phone now, guys, okay? It's been great being on the show, okay? So I got to take off.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dr. Kaku.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
He said, I'm not talking to that pussy.
He's like, I'm part of a bit now. I'm done. Some guy with a wacky fucking little doctor fucking...
Hello, Dr. Kaku. Why? You know you have the name Cock in your name? Kaku, get it? Cock?
All right, I gotta go. Yeah.
Sirius XM. The virus. You're listening to You're listening to Opie.
It is true.
Anytime there's a black president, it's the end of the world. What's the other one? Fifth Element.
Fifth Element had it, yep.
Space becomes like molasses, and we can actually measure that. In fact, the Nobel Prize was given a few years ago to physicists who calculated the fact that
somebody did something.
Yeah, that's
like
a real
molasses.
Nobel Peace Prize. Peace Prize.
Yes, a Nobel Prize for science.
Have you personally discovered anything, sir?
You're listening to